win 29-16 on Saturday. Again, the Swamp was electric. That's about the loudest I've seen throughout the duration of an entire game. Gators drive on the first drive of the game, miss a field goal. So we're going to talk about special teams. Tennessee goes down and scores quickly. I looked at Brooke and I said, man, I am not looking forward to this if this is how this is going to work. The Gators then go off and run off 26 straight points against Tennessee. In a game that seemingly, I know a lot of fans were nervous just about the way that the Gators, we still are learning and growing as a team.
Right.
But the win expectation was always very high for the Gators this game, if you look at the statistics. So give us your overall thoughts and view on the game, and then we'll break down offense, defense, and then, of course, get to that special teams ranking.
I'm with you on the start. I felt good with the drive going down the field. I felt good getting the ball first, just because I thought we were going to be able to move the ball on these guys fairly easy. So we get the ball first, we march down, then we kick a knuckleball we stall out and we kick a knuckleball of a field goal, and I was just befuddled at the kick, the attempt, everything. It was just like, yo, we can't win this game or go forward in the season without a kicker. Thank God. Later in the game, we find Trey Smack. He can hit extra points. At least we know that. He was a 5-star in the kicker world. And I don't know why he wasn't starting, but nonetheless, they get the ball after we missed that field goal. They march down, get 7, and I'm just at the same time. While I know it's a scripted drive, and I know like Milton's gonna have to pitch around in this loud stadium in this hostile environment all game. It just wasn't the ideal start. So I was just a little disappointed with the start, not getting points. But we get the ball back and we march right back down again, and we get 6 and then miss another extra point. Yeah. So it was like, a mixture of feelings at that point. It's 6-7. I'm seeing that we can move the ball easily, but at the same time, I'm thinking like we got to get 7 every time because this guy can't kick. So at the beginning of the game, I'm feeling good. And like you said, we just started rattling off points, putting together drives that drained the clock. And that's why I like, most importantly, Tennessee scored fast. They like to score fast with Josh Heupel's offense. Those long drives, keeping them on the sidelines, draining their defense, making them tired. It's something to it. Now, defense is with the shenanigans this year. Yeah. They came in ready to play football. Austin Armstrong is going to put our defense in some situation that may get them cooked here and there. We may give a big play here and there, but the amount of pressure that we're applying within the front 7 is very impressive. I would like to see my DNs play a little better, especially in for sure passing situations. I think they could get out the passer a little bit better. We need a for sure or a home run weak side defensive end. That's what we're missing, I think, from the defense. Just somebody with a get off and can really apply some pressure, speed rush. Umi Nealon played a better game. Tyreek Sapp is going to be a man amongst boys all year. Shout out to him. I'm glad he's not inside and playing outside right now because he's providing us a good spark. But overall, the defense came to do what they had to do, bro. I have no complaints. Scooby Williams is just as valuable as Shamar James right now. We have a dynamic duo at linebacker. It's hard to run the football on us. Tennessee was one of the best running games. I know they haven't played anybody, but they had a spark at running back. Even the quarterback, Joe Milton, could get outside the pocket and make some things happen. We kept him bottled in pretty good. Austin Armstrong is a superstar defensive coordinator, a future superstar. Like the electricity he provides on the sidelines, the energy, his schemes. You're going against Josh Heupel, who I deem as one of the best play callers in college football. Armstrong had that boy in a chokehold all night. Yeah. Overall, great team performance. I know there's a lot of programs out there that have these superstar players here and there, big names, but from an overall team perspective, considering how young this team is, we got most of these guys are going to come back next year. We may get 1 or 2 that may jump early. That always happens, but you likely getting 95% of the starters back next year. Graham Mercy's only going to grow. The team's only going to grow. I do want to see us take more shots down the field. I like how we moved the chains and kept Tennessee off the field, but we got to get more vertical. And I seen a couple plays where Pearsall was vertical and we didn't go out there and attack them down the field. So if I do have a gripe, is that, and also Billy Napier taking his foot off the gas in the second half. Put your foot on their throat, get that killer mentality to put teams away, not just sit on leads, man.
Yeah, especially in those rivalry games. So, Silk, you hit a lot of good points there. I'm curious to see what the offense looked like with Trey Wilson in the game all game. He goes out, after that first drive. He was humming. I think he had 6 catches, 44 yards on that first drive. Has a bruised clavicle, so I'm not even sure how long you're out for that. Maybe you preemptively sit him just because it's Charlotte. Try to get him fully healthy as you get back into the SEC slate. Austin Armstrong has more energy than I've seen out of a coordinating type coach. A lot of the hype coaches and stuff like that, are there, but Austin Armstrong was waving to Tennessee at the end of the game to leave the field. He was jumping up and down. He was super energetic. One of the things that I think is interesting is that, when the Gators, just because of where we sat on the field, you could see the sideline a little bit more. Billy Napier, when the defense is being called, he stands on the opposite side of the field, which to me means that he fully trusts Austin Armstrong to completely run that defense, to lead that part of the team, and step out of his way. So I thought that was very interesting. He was 30 or 40 yards away from him during that time. But Austin Armstrong dialed up a fantastic defense against Tennessee. You can say whatever you want about Joe Milton. Josh Heupel is still one of the best offensive coaches in college football, who's going to put his players out there to scheme. They're able to stop the run. They're able to force Joe Milton to throw the ball. And they had a lot of 3 and outs or a lot of short drives that kept their defense gashed. And I think that the Gators were able to really benefit from that. Trevor Etienne had an incredible game himself. Want to make sure that he gets his flowers for the game. An electric guy. And you know what? I give a lot of credit to what they were able to do on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of times we've been balancing back and forth between the 2 different running backs. You fed the hot hand, and Florida figured it out. 23 rushes, 172 yards, 7.48 yards per, on average, another touchdown in the game. That's back-to-back games where he's averaged over 7.5 yards a carry. So he looked incredible. The offensive line played really good. We talked a lot last week about that front 7 of the Tennessee defense. The Gators looked bad on the offensive line against Utah. They did a very good job against a very formidable front 7 of that defense in that game. And then finally, I do want to give Graham Mertz his flowers. A lot of us we had question marks, right? I know that there was a lot of probably misplaced anger towards him or frustration towards him because of what you saw out of Wisconsin. And, we continuously said, hey, Wisconsin just isn't a great offensive team. They weren't the same identity they were what people knew of Wisconsin before. Their head coach gets fired. They don't have the same skill makers. And what did we see out of Graham Mertz this year so far? He is passing at a 75% completion rated, 692 yards, 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception, goes for 80% nearly against Tennessee. Again, the yards per average, Silk, you mentioned it. We want to see that a little bit higher, but the guy's not turning over the ball, and he's making plays. And, man, that pass to Khalil Jackson.
Man, not just that, right? Like, I like that pass to Khalil Jackson. I like the pass on the run to Eugene Wilson. But the intangibles is very good with Graham Mertz. I just want to see him go vertical more. You're missing that part of his game. But there's part like the screen he threw to Montrell Johnson, the patience to draw the defense in, look them off, dump it off last minute. Like, you can't just like coach that. Like, that's the feel of the game that he has. Also the pump fake. When he breaks the pocket, he had already been hitting them for the little dimes to move the chains when he left the pocket. When he left the pocket and he gets the Tennessee defender and he pump fakes to get him in the air and run to the sticks. Yep. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't see at Wisconsin that he's getting off. He's super comfortable when he gets to the sideline, post plays, like he's with his team, ups, downs, and that's one of my criticisms of AR last year. I'm gonna let you finish your stuff, but I had to chime in on Graham because my dog hooping a little bit. But the difference between him and AR will pout, and I'm an AR fan, but he wasn't the greatest of leaders. He would pout, he would get up and down. Graham Mertz is level, he's even killed. I like his demeanor. We got a great leader at quarterback right now. Like, we just got to go vertical a little bit more, but the kid got the goods.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very impressed by him. Again, he was, like you mentioned, Silk, hyping up the team. He was pumping up the crowd. He was doing everything that you want and expect out of a leader of that team. He did everything that you wanted in that game. Again, the downfield stuff I still think is going to come, and I still think that there's opportunities for improvement. But if you can tell me after playing Utah and after playing Tennessee 6 months ago that Graham Mertz would be throwing for 75%. I don't think you could ask for much more than that. And the Gators are 2-1. Outside of the homer in me, and you look at the Utah game and you shot yourself in the foot. But, if you said to a Gator fan, hey, after the first 3 weeks of the game, our first 3 weeks of the year, you're going to be 2-1. I think most Gator fans would be happy at that. You have now the chance to go 3-1, right? So some people are even expecting that Florida might only win 3 games all year. Now, all of a sudden, the national media's changing their attention. The Gators are ranked 25th overall now.
Yeah.
Still behind Tennessee, which is weird, but Gators are 25th overall. The young boys are playing. TJ Searcy, Jordan Castell is playing incredibly. We had a nice interception from Devin Moore. I mean, this team has the inklings that this could be a very formidable team this year, and then next year, getting excited already. So,
yeah, I'm gonna take it one at a time. I already know next year. Next year, like people gonna have to come with it next year. But let's the defense right now, like they're top 10. When you look at it, we know how terrible this defense was last year. And the hire of Austin Armstrong was heavily criticized. Whether the youth, us getting them from Bama, like the lack of experience. But he's more than holding his own. Defense is only giving up 2.92 yards per carry on the year. We held Tennessee to 64 plays ran, the fewest of the season and third fewest under Heupel. Like we're playing a different level of football when it pertains to the defense, man. We generated 15 pressures.
And that's against 2 teams that were at the time ranked in the top 12 in the entire country, right?
Correct. We generated 15 pressures on Joe Milton on Saturday night. Umi Nilling is going to eventually, those sacks are going to add up. He had 4 pressures. Caleb Banks had 3. Tyreek Sapp had 2. Just overall great defensive year so far. We're only 3 games in. Jordan Castell, who my man sorely got in the chat right here as an All-American. He's barking up that tree. I tell you that. He graded out the highest on defense at 83.5. Umi Nilling 81.7. Devin Moore 78.5. I want to see what's the status on Devin Moore. I hope he's back and healthy. He's going to be very good. And Jason Marshall is struggling a little bit at that corner. He's getting into some one-on-one. And he got to put his hands on people. If you're there to jam, bro, like get a little bit more physical. But Tyreek Sapp graded out at 75.7. Cam Jackson, who's just eating up space in the middle. My defensive tackle, you could go 3-4 deep. Them boys are still eating. Chris McClellan is coming in eating. Big 21 got him a sack, laid on Joe, put that 400 pounds of pressure on that boy. So, man, the defense, I have no complaints right now for my defense. Even when we rotate the linebackers and you get Manny Nunnery and Mitchell in the game, Taraja Mitchell, they're still eating. I need Miguel Mitchell to wrap up. He tackling with his chest. You can't run up on guys with your chest out. You gotta put a shoulder and a helmet on these people and wrap up. But other than that, man, my defense is eating. I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you mentioned it, Pro Football Focus, their top 5 defensive players, Jordan Castell, Princely, Devin Moore, Tyreek Sapp, Cameron Jackson. I think this was Cameron Jackson coming out party. He had 6 tackles on the game. Scooby Williams ranked a little bit lower, but he led the team in tackles. It said the Gators had 12 missed tackles in this game. I don't know if I 100% believe that, but overall defense played really, really strong. Not a lot to say, right? I mean, the Tennessee offense is good. They're going to be potent all year. No matter what Tennessee's record is this season, they're still going to have an offense that moves the ball. Joe Milton is not a great quarterback. We've mentioned that for a while on this show, but they're still going to move the ball. They still have great rushing attack. The Gators were able to really limit their ability to move the ball on the ground. So want to give the flowers where they're due, still opportunity to improve. And that's the thing, right? I mean, Jordan Castell, freshman, Princey, obviously been here a little while. Devin Moore, a sophomore, Tyreek Sapp finally getting some playing time. Cameron Jackson, Still has, a little bit time left that he can have at UF. Jalen Kimber, I thought, played pretty well in the game as well. You still have some run with him. Desmond Watson went in. You mentioned late on him. Kelby Collins. These are all the top-rated Gator, defensive players, and you can expect most of them to be here next year. I thought Chris McClellan had a couple of big plays. He had a couple of tackles. I know he had a quarterback hurry. Caleb Banks had 2 quarterback hurries as well. So you're starting to see a bit of a coming out party for this defense, and I'm excited to see who they can be, what their identity continues to be. There's a couple of plays. I know that Jakeem Jackson. Yeah, there's a couple of weird things that probably weren't called on that Jakeem Jackson touchdown that was thrown against him. But you know what? The second after that happened, Jordan Castell came over to him, told him to hold his head up high and come back. You're gonna get beat when you play. There was probably a tug at his jersey. There's probably also a missed kind of pick block or pass interference on the offense there. But regardless, go in, say keep your head held high. Pardon me. But I'm excited about what the defense is. Want to see a little bit more out of Jason Marshall. Got burned on kind of a weird route there at the touchdown at the beginning of the game. That was tough. But Silk, you mentioned, and you play DB, so you have a lot more authority to talk about it. But again, I was very, very impressed with what this defense was and how they're continuing to grow.
Yeah, my pet peeve at DB. You up there, my son does that right now, and he's playing football. Some of these bigger receivers get up there, and he don't bro. You're in a position to jam. If you're in a position where you gotta put your hands on them, or you're wasting time being up in his grill. Like, what's the point of playing man press if you're not gonna press? So you got to redirect because they got some guys too. Tennessee got some 6'4", 6'5" guys that can run a little bit. Most importantly, man, watching the culture shift and change. This is not the same attitude. From you watch this team change from when Dan Mullen was here, watching us get into shootouts with Sampson, the energy of, we won the game. And it's just different right now. Castell picking up Jakeem's head. You watch the locker room, watching Luis Murphy and those guys in the locker room, pumping those guys up at halftime. That's culture. That's winning tradition back in the building, man. And regardless of the field goal, special teams is still something we got to clean up. It's going to cost us if we don't clean up special teams. Even the punting, we shanked the cup off the side of our foot that we need to pin Tennessee deep on. Just some criticism there, but you could feel winning culture coming into the swamp a little bit. It's just a different vibe, and I'm loving it. I'm not gonna lie to the young boys. They're hungry. Everybody's waiting to get a snap, and everybody's trying to make the best opportunity of every snap they get. The competition to get these snaps is very high. Caleb Douglas came through. And I've had his name in the pre-show, previewing the show. I thought he was going to come through. He had 2 clutch catches for us. If we go a little bit more vertical and keep passing the ball more, he's going to break out here in a minute. But a good game by Caleb Douglas for coming through clutch for some big catches for sure.
No, absolutely. Caleb Douglas is a guy I still haven't gotten used to his new jersey number. He had a pass catch pretty early on in the game. I'm like, who the hell is number 4? It's like, oh yeah, it's Caleb Douglas. But let's move to the offensive side of the ball. Silk, Graham Mertz played well, did everything that you want out of him, didn't turn the ball over. Again, I know we talked about some deeper passes, some deeper threats. And again, you lose Trey Wilson in the first quarter, so you don't know if that plays into it a little bit more. Still doing a lot of east-west stuff, but the Gators were able to move the ball against Tennessee throughout. We talked about Trevor Etienne, Montrell Johnson, scored a touchdown as well, I believe. But talk to us a little bit about the offense.
I love I know some people complain about the motions that we do a lot of that motion, but Eugene Wilson, after getting him those 5 touches early, you got to pay attention to whenever he's moving. He's the type of guy where every defense is going to have a how do I stop Trey Wilson, or we got to watch this guy. And I like that Billy got the ball into the playmaker's hand. That's been one of my criticisms. Like you said earlier, going with the high hand. Love how we got Eugene just popping, not just